Hey gang, this is Michael with my Real Estate Dojo, and today's lesson is about negotiating with a motivated seller using the technique called the deadbeat closing. Now, let's dive in and get started. Now, what is a deadbeat closing, and when should you apply this technique when you deal with motivated sellers? As you know, I have other videos that explain different types of closing techniques that you should use when you're dealing with a motivated seller, depending on their mindset. This technique called the deadbeat closing is really good when you're negotiating with sellers that are behind in payments, or they're upside down in their home, or they have marginal equity, or they have no equity, or if they have negative equity. Okay, but it's not only limited to that. You could also use this technique for people that have the house clear and clear, but they're just in a deadbeat situation, and I'll explain what that means. All right. Now, a deadbeat closing technique works for people that are, they're just in a slump in their life, okay, and they're not willing to make a decision left or right, and so they're in the lack of decision making. And your job is not to help them make a decision, because they're not going to do that, okay? You can't make people make a decision. Your job is to help them realize that the lack of decision making can have major side effects, and your job is to help them, educate them, and help them learn the side effects of their lack of decision making. Now, let me give you some examples. In a scenario where the seller may have marginal equity, 10-15%, or the scenario where they're underwater 10-15%, and the seller's not willing to do anything. For example, they're not willing to start a short sale, so we start talking to the lender for a lower negotiating price than what the seller owns on the balance loan. They're not making that decision, or in a situation they're not willing to do a subject to, or any of the other options. So at least list it. Let's try to sell your house. They're in a situation where they're not willing to go left or right. They have lack of decision making. I will use a deadbeat closing, even if they have equity, if they don't have equity. And with a deadbeat closing, what I do is I explain to them the side effects of their action. For example, if they're not making the payments on the property, or if the house is going to go foreclosure, I'm going to help the motivated seller, understand that, hey, buddy, if this house goes to foreclosure, have you thought about that you're going to have a 10-year, 7-year nightmare on your credit? What does that really mean? Who cares if your credit gets messed up? Let me explain to you. If you want to go get a cell phone, you want to set up internet, you want to, do anything like set up water, anything like that, they're going to check your credit, and since you have bad credit, A, they're going to decline you, or B, you're going to have to put a higher security deposit. So I help the seller understand that if they don't make a decision going left or right, that it has significant decision side effects, and that's what my job is, to help the seller understand their side effects if they don't make a decision quickly, if they want to go left or right. Okay, so for example, hey, you might have a 7-10 year nightmare. If this house goes to foreclosure, the lender's going to write off a 1099 to the IRS for the difference. So you're going to be reliable for that tax, or possibly be reliable for it. Okay, you're going to have like creditors calling you because you have deficiency judgments. Okay, you won't be able to get any credit cards. Okay, you won't be able to buy a car. And if you do, you're going to put significant large down payment down. Plus your monthly payment's going to be a lot higher. Okay, again, you're probably not going to be able to find a rental property if you ever want to, in an apartment, and if you do, it's going to be more expensive, more higher security deposits. So I help the seller realize that if they don't make a decision, here's all the side effects. Or if they're not cutting their grass and they live in a different city, that these citations have legal side effects, that something could happen to him in a sense of having a warrant because he's not showing up to court, or things like that. So the deadbeat closing is helping a motivated seller, even if they have equity or if they don't have equity, understand that if they don't make a decision, there's going to be major side effects down the line. And that's why I use the deadbeat closing, guys. Now, as you know, I've already made different closing techniques by different motivated sellers' mindset, like the logical closing or the emotional closing, or this one like the deadbeat closing or the fairy tale closing or the 1-2 closing, etc. So watch my other YouTube videos to learn the different types of closing. So when you're talking to a motivated seller, you kind of understand what kind of mindset they're in, so you can pull out the right tool, in this case the closing tool, to close the deal. Gang, go out there and hustle and bustle. Don't take no for an answer. This is Mike with My Real Estate Dojo, and I'll talk to you later, gang. Have a great day.